Hey there, welcome back to the channel. In the year 2020, the world came to a standstill of sorts. Businesses weren't moving forward, some businesses closed, people's lives were halted in a sense, but not for Microsoft. It did some pretty interesting things, which we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about Microsoft acquiring Activision Blizzard. My name is Carl Francis. Let's talk about it. Around 2019-2020, Xbox releases Xbox Game Pass, which is their Netflix of games. So you pay a small subscription fee to have access to millions of games. You can play these games for as long as they are on the store, but if you do like it and you want to keep it in your library, you will pay full price for it, which is a good deal for a small subscription price. I think it's like $10, $15. Then 2020 they released the Xbox Series X. Now, the shocker came in around 2021 when Microsoft acquired Bethesda for $5 billion. For those who don't know, Bethesda Studios is one that made Fallout series, Elder Scrolls, that is Skyrim, Morrowind, and the long-awaited Starfield. People may not know about Starfield, but it's a space exploration game. It has been teased for a while. After the acquisition of Bethesda, the next trailer for Starfield, it said only on Xbox. From just that acquisition, you can see that Xbox is just getting studios, and some of their intellectual properties will be their first-party games. A few months passed, and then Microsoft was in the process of acquiring Activision Blizzard for, you'd think, oh, Ted, it's fine, but for $68 billion. That was crazy. Activision Blizzard is a big game developer. It has Overwatch 1 and 2. It has World of Warcraft. I think it made Spyro, the dragon game, pretty popular in PS2 days. Obviously, Call of Duty Mobile, Warzone, and the console. Now, everyone was shocked. Microsoft has that money, and you'd think, damn, there goes Call of Duty. Some people are with this deal and others aren't. We have South Africa, which is okay with it, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, and some other countries. But we have companies like Sony, which is against it, and some UK authority called the Competition and Market Authority, which claims that this deal could harm the cloud gaming market and could harm the UK gamers. But after the CMA reviewed the deal, it realizes that Microsoft would lose money if it made the game exclusive. So then it started loosening its grip on it, saying that it might not be such a bad idea, or there's no need to be here. Interestingly, there are some investment bankers I read about called Nick McKay and Michael Pachta that say that regulators are just also looking for a way to earn from it, or they're just trying to look tough, elongate its process to get something out of it, but they have a weak argument in court. We had companies that came forward which expressed their honest experience about being integrated into the Microsoft family, that Microsoft enabled them to enter deeper and deeper into the console ecosystem of different companies, that is to make Minecraft good on PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, but still at the end of it all, Sony stands alone, claiming that this deal could harm its players. It could be a situation Microsoft has or Xbox wants to use against Sony, make a haphazard game, meaning it will be full of bugs, levels won't work, and people will complain only in PlayStation, whereas the rest work. It claims that Microsoft will not let Activision support their controller gimmicks, that is their haptic feedback, that is their adaptive triggers. In these little things, quality control for Sony's side will not be kept. And in Microsoft's response to that, I think it issued out a 10-year deal to Nvidia, to Nintendo, and I think it said it sent one to Sony, telling them for 10 years, we'll make sure Activision gives the same standard all throughout. The games will be the same price, materials will be the same. If there's support required for something new you have, that space will be given to you. Basically Microsoft was saying, we will now be contractually obligated to give the Call of Duty standard that gamers have been having. Apparently, Microsoft said Nintendo and Nvidia liked the deal and signed the contract, but Sony has said no. Sony is still, that didn't quench its opposition. Sony has had the largest market share for 20 years or even more, and I feel like it probably feels a bit threatened, because this reminds me about 3 to 4 years ago when crossplay was trying to be implemented. PC was trying to play with Nintendo, was trying to play with Xbox. As long as you had the same game, let's all play. But Sony was very reluctant. It was actually the last company, as far as I read, to try to implement that, saying it was protecting its players from, let's say, cheaters or whatnot, and people with different systems. But people are like, Xbox was quick on board. Everyone was trying to have a good time, but Sony was not. It kind of feels like the same thing. Sony wants to be that isolated king that it has been for years and years and years. On the other hand, I am also skeptical about Microsoft's intentions. It's like, I am quite skeptical when someone uses that buying money. I get it. They are trying to make moves and it requires money. In the year 2020, I saw a link. Again, I don't know how true this link was, but it just got in my mind for some reason. But during the vaccination period, they were saying Microsoft's giving out Xboxes. There were these incentives in the US market, that is, to give people Xboxes if you vaccinate. During a console shortage, if that was true, there was enough to give people free consoles, Series X's, to just get the jab. And I feel like it did it then. I'm also going to feel like at one point they may need that influence and then force people through that, because if it can acquire Activision, what else can it get? Which other game is bigger than Call of Duty? Call of Duty is powerful. It brings in money, it brings in players, It's like exclusives are great and all, but it's a very productive service as a game as a service. Another thing, post-edit, does Microsoft have the ability to assure quality to the players? Because at the end of the day, that's why all this is happening. They are the ones who pay, they are the ones who play. Does Xbox have the ability to keep whatever these game companies have been doing to a certain standard, and also make it either better or much more revolutionary? It hasn't been doing so well, with Halo and recently Redfall. I think people have been complaining about, we're not going to lie, Sony has the ability to look and make great games. Look at the companies they acquired. They didn't acquire many, but they acquired the ones that had great ideas. God of War, Ragnarok, and then it winning Game of the Year, releasing Horizon Zero Dawn, Miles Morales off the bat. And that's the quality assurance. Now, Microsoft might be here busy trying to acquire Activision, and yet Redfall, a game in their ecosystem, didn't go so well. That's bad PR. I don't know if you guys you're taken up by other things, or so that's another worry you might have. Does Xbox have what it takes? Like even their own Halo, it didn't come out great. But also I'd want to tell Sony, you kind of did the same thing years back. I understand the first-party game developers under Sony Studios, PlayStation Studios, weren't well known at the time, or weren't expensive at the time, or established at the time. But it was doing that the same way, like getting people who had that potential, and they made it strictly theirs. You have Sucker Punch, which made Infamous 2, Second Son, because of Tsushima, Naughty Dog, which was made in the 80s. Now Naughty Dog, you'll know Uncharted, Last of Us, and Crash Bandicoot. Sony shouldn't be mad about Xbox trying to do that for itself. It has the money, it can. But also, I read someone say, fine, if people don't want Microsoft to acquire Activision, would they rather Tencent, the Chinese company that made Call of Duty Mobile, PUBG? I think they also made Apex, but then the mobile scene a lot. Would people have been better off with a Chinese Tencent? I'm excited to see Xbox in its pursuit of exclusives, or its pursuit to be more competitive. It started, I think, in my opinion, it started the cloud gaming race. You can correct me if I'm wrong, and I hope they keep that up. You know, it gives Team Blue a run for their money, makes it much more interesting. Maybe Xbox does have ideas to pass through these game developers, new types of games that they can fund. I hope in 10 years we can look back and be like, damn, all right, something came out of it. Anyway, it's a heated debate. I'd like to hear your thoughts, and what do you think about it? Do you think we should just let it pass through? Are you skeptical about it, or you just not care? You just want good games? You know, I'm sure PlayStation people are not really bothered. They still have God of War, they still have Horizon Zero Dawn, Uncharted, Last of Us. You know, on top of that, they still have Call of Duty for the next 10 years if Sony signs, unless Sony comes out of nowhere and says, we'll have our own first person. But if they don't want, there is Battlefield. Anyway, it's been an interesting conversation. I'd like to hear from you, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. God bless.